Out everybody. So what if your truck had AI, like the image in the background, and your AI truck had a personality? We often call our trucks after female names, like a ship. A ship is often referred uh, uh, to a she. The ship ship in many ways is it's something you would have a relationship with, and your truck could be, you could have a relationship with your truck. Uh, it's not uncommon for guys to give their trucks a name, and often it's a woman's name, and so with AI in your truck, it would act as your personal assistant, your AI agent, and it could have a personality. You could obviously program it to be any personality you want. Um, but if you recall a popular TV show from the early '80s, I'm showing my age, but there was a TV show called Knight Rider. Knight Rider was a black Trans Am with Kit was the AI system on board, and you could talk to Kit. Kit was the car. The car would talk back to you. And Kit had a nemesis named Goliath, and he was a truck. So there's a series of Kit versus Goliath. But with AI, uh, the future trucks could have AI systems that a driver could communicate with. And let's just say, for example, you gave your truck a name. Uh, just pick a name like Isabella, and your truck's name is Isabella. And you say, Isabella, route me to the nearest truck stop. And Isabella, just like a lot of voice activated systems like Siri or Gemini or whatever. So these systems like Amazon has or Google has. You can do voice command. A lot of dash cameras, or not a lot, but some dash cameras have voice command. So your AI in your truck could take on a personality, and you could use voice commands for your AI system. You could have it, GPS routed, or it could tell you, for example, if tire pressure it needs adjusting, or uh, maybe the future trucks can tell you what the weight of your load is. They have automatic sensors. They can do a lot of things. Maybe they can tell you, when maintenance is due, or predict when maintenance is due. Your personality, your truck says, hey, I feel like I need a brake adjustment, and you'll have to take it to the shop and get your brakes adjusted. So the truck is communicating with the driver, with the human. And you could always, if it's an autonomous truck, you could always say, hey, Isabella, take the wheel. I want you to go in auto mode or something like that. So, you know, AI doesn't have to be this impersonal thing. It could take on uh, a very personal approach to using technology. Guys often joke about, the relationship they have with their trucks. They love their trucks. Well, now the truck has a personality that you can interact with. And maybe this would cause marital problems, or problems with your girlfriends or whoever, jealous of your truck, and Isabella being the AI system in your truck. They'd be like, why don't you change it to a guy's name? Why does it have to be a girl's name? Something like that. Oftentimes guys talk to their truck nowadays. It's like, come on, baby, pull, pull, pull. You're trying to get up that hill. Now literally you could talk to the AI, and, you know, tell it to perform at a higher level. It's something where technology could have some unintended consequences. It's like, you think of AI in generic terms of, being able to do amazing things. What if AI had personality? What if you really did have a relationship with your truck? And maybe that would be a reason why you wouldn't sell your truck. It's like, I can't part ways with my AI, or at least I want to transfer my AI from my old truck to my new truck, because my AI agent knows how I like to do things. I don't want to have to reprogram a whole new AI agent. I want, if Isabella's AI in my truck, I want to be able to transfer Isabella from one truck to another truck, so that um, you don't lose any of the memory or the preferences or the history you have with that AI agent. You know, there's no reason to believe that AI couldn't be personalized. I mean, it didn't have to be, Isabella. It could be whatever you want it to be. You can name it after your dog's name. Who knows? You could call it, whatever. A lot of times I see guys call their trucks after women's names, but it doesn't have to be. You want to call your truck retard? I guess you can. It's like, hey, retard, route me to the nearest truck stop. You know, that wouldn't be my choice, but I guess you could if you really wanted to. Maybe if you didn't like your truck, you'd call it other names. But I think you can have some fun with this. It doesn't have to be big scary technology that replaces truck drivers. It might complement truck drivers. It may boost your productivity. It may make life on the road better. Um, AI could be your companion. Instead of bringing a dog along, you have AI to keep you company. While you're driving, AI is holding a conversation with you. Wouldn't that be amazing? A lot of times I listen to college football while I'm driving. I think it's the most wonderful time of the year. It's not Christmas, it's college football season. Maybe AI could be a fan along with you. So you both are rooting for your favorite sports team. You know, it's like, Isabella, find me, you know, the game of the week, and start playing that on the Sirius XM radio. I think technology will converge as it always does. Like right now we have standalone GPS, standalone camera systems, standalone ELDs. Future trucks could have all this built into one computerized entertainment system. Uh, you see this. You see this sometimes in new cars that are coming out, like the Tesla. At the Apple, I think it's called like an Apple infotainment system. They bring up Google Maps and uh, uh, telephone features and everything on that widescreen display. You could have that in trucks. I think Peterbilt's doing more of that than say Freightliner. Um, where now you're combining truck GPS with ELD, with SiriusXM satellite, and AI along with that. Now we're really getting somewhere. We see advances in technology like the diagnostic features on the Freightliner. Where they're actually giving you the fault code. You have a menu screen on the dash, and you use a dash feature, or you use a steering wheel feature to pull up the menu and switch from screen to screen and see what the fault code is. Earlier versions of the truck, the diagnostics wasn't as elaborate. It was there, but wasn't too great. Technically, you don't need a laptop to see what a fault code is anymore. Some of the older trucks, you had to have a laptop. Just truck through a fault code. You had no idea what the fault code was. Until you hooked it up to the laptop. So with AI, they can do the diagnostics along with AI, and then you're like, Isabella, what's wrong? And she's like, I got a fault code here for the after treatment system. Nothing too serious, but next time we stop, we probably should have it fixed. You know, you could have that kind of relationship with your truck. You know, it's like, Isabella, can we keep going, or should we, should we pull over? It's like, well, we could keep going for now, but as your AI agent, let me find your repair shop and let's get routed over there. Now AI is working with you collaboratively, to help keep the truck running. Tell you what's wrong with the truck. You don't need a qualified maintenance mechanic, Detroit diesel certified mechanic, to tell you what's wrong with the truck. AI is going to tell you. Isabella's going to tell you what's wrong with the truck. It's like, hey, don't feel so great today. I think we need a tune-up. you know, there's no limit to what AI could do, and there's no reason to think that AI couldn't, adopt a personality. And you know, maybe you want that type of feature in your truck. Maybe you don't. Maybe you want the standard, just computerized, no personal attributes to your AI. You want a generic AI. It's just like bland. Maybe that's what you prefer. But other drivers, like they may, like they may prefer something that's more dynamic, more robust. Something that's more interactive. And who's to say that your truck can't have a personality? Just like Knight Rider, Kit was the AI system in that Trans Am. That Kit was an integral part of the show. People didn't watch the show, just because of the actor. They wanted to see the car. The car was like, the main actor of the show. Just like the General Lee on Dukes of Hazzard. Now that wasn't AI, but people wanted to see that car. And Knight Rider, they wanted to see Kit. What can Kit do? Kit can do a lot. And in the future, if you had AI systems in your truck, it could take on a personality and it could do a lot. All this stuff is on the horizon, but like I said in previous videos, the only limitation is your own imagination. All right, guys, that's all I got for you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the internet.